Hello friends, it's Reese here and thank you very much for coming to this video. So today I want to talk about the concept of lectures. How you can make lectures work for you, how you can make sure that you get the most out of going to lectures, how you can unpick what the key important things are, and how you can make sure that the time you spend in lectures benefits you in terms of sort of that immediate module but also further afield. I think a good chunk of the work in terms of making a lecture useful actually begins even before the lecture itself. It's having a look over the entire module and getting a sense of what the story, the narrative, the takeaway of that module is. So these things are not thrown together, they are designed to have sort of individual chunks that work together as a cohesive whole. So have a look over each week, see what the general thrust of the module is, if there are learning aims, if there are objectives, see what they are and understand those and try and approach the lecture, whichever lecture, through those lenses. Before a lecture, I would advise you to have a look and discover what resources are available. And indeed, hopefully the lecturer would advise you of this in the first week as well. But are the PowerPoints that are used, are they going to be available? Are they going to be handouts, physical or digital? Is there a Moodle? Is there a sort of an online space where many resources, thoughts, etc. are compiled? It's useful to know that because if things are available, if you know that the PowerPoint will be available, say, then you don't need to waste your time copying down quotes that you can access later. So again, it's sort of preparing yourself before the actual event in order to make sure that you're not wasting time duplicating things that you can do and that you're not trying to get down things that you can access in your own time. We know that the model of a single person standing at the front, just talking at you forever, is not particularly conducive, broadly speaking, to learning. And it's often the case now that many sort of newer lecturers will encourage you to take part. They will ask questions, they will try and gauge feedback of the room. And as horrible as an experience as it is, as much as you might not want to do it, it is really worth trying to join in. It's really worth throwing out answers, thoughts, ideas, if questions are posed. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if you get something wrong, if you don't have the right thought, if it doesn't quite work, it doesn't matter. But the process of engaging, of trying to figure out, of trying to follow the reasoning, of having things explained, is incredibly useful. And you don't often get those experiences with experts asking you these questions. So much though it might go against every gut instinct, and I know the pain. I was the student who did not want to take part in anything academic in that sense. But try and throw yourself out there. Try and, if you have a thought, run with it. Try and present it, because that will only benefit you and the entire class as well. One of the key challenges, I think, when you're in a lecture is trying to figure out what notes to take and indeed how to take them. Are you a pen and paper person? Are you a on the keyboard person? On the laptop? So there's a challenge of knowing exactly what to write down, what things will be useful, what things will not be useful. Hopefully good lecturers will signpost this for you. Hopefully if there are certain ideas that they think are pivotal, they will make you aware of this. And they will do that verbally, they will do that via their PowerPoints. This is where some of the prep work comes in. If you have looked at the module outline, if you know the key ideas and you see things that chime with those, they are likely to be important. If there's a thinker that recurs, if there is a particular topic that has recurred throughout weeks, you know that is likely to be important. This is really a challenge that there's no easy answer to. I might do a later video on this. If you think that would be useful, do comment below. But the challenge is essentially try not to write literally everything that is said. Try and be careful, try and cherry pick the things that are useful nuggets of information. And hopefully that will see you through in the long run. After you've been to a lecture, likely as well after you've been to a seminar, it is worth, I think, trying to distill your notes down, trying to get them useful for you in some way. So when you do an assessment, when you revise, etc., those notes are there and you've got the useful bits. Again, this is a process of figuring out what the useful bits actually are, and I'll give you some tips on this in the next section. But if you've just scribbled down everything you can, especially if a seminar has come as well in which useful ideas have appeared, make sure to write them down, make sure to use them while your mind is in that topic. Often you're having a lecture every single week, and it's possible you might forget something interesting that was said in the lecture as an aside if you try and come back to it at the end of the term. So I think it's really useful to kind of distill your notes, to pull out the useful ideas, the useful quotes, the useful questions, as close to the event as you can. And part of the process then is thinking about the module as a whole. So after you've had your lecture in week 8 on whatever topic it is, thinking about the module as a whole, how does that reinforce, how does that challenge, how does that complicate things that have happened in weeks 2, 3, etc. And try and position every lecture you've been to against the module as a whole, both content that has already been delivered and content that you know will be delivered. As I said at the start, these things are an overarching entity. Although the lectures are individual units, they do all add up to one cohesive module on a particular topic, idea, person, period, etc. So when you're thinking about the lecture afterwards, when you're sort of distilling your notes, when you're trying to unpick the useful ideas, remember that the lecture is a unit in itself, but it is also part of that cohesive whole. And lastly, what I want to do is give a piece of advice, but perhaps a piece of reassurance. Not every lecture style will work for you. There will be some lecturers that you will love, who are brilliant, whose every word you hang on to. There will also be lecturers that you find tedious and boring, and no matter how much they try and sell a topic, it does not chime with you. And there is nothing wrong with that in the slightest. In your 3 years at uni, you're likely to come across 10, 20, 30 different lecturers, all of whom have their own style, their own way of delivering things. And some of those will chime with you and some of them won't. So if you are in a particular lecture and it is just not speaking to you, try not to lose heart. Just try and run with the process that works for you, the process that you've defined, that you've understood, and try and make the most of it. So those were some tips on how to make lectures useful. Hopefully that is of some use to you. If you have any ideas for future videos or future topics that you would like me to discuss, please do comment below. Otherwise, like, subscribe, ring the bell, all of that. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.